It is true. The leaders who create lasting impact, they're not the ones who avoid change. No, they're the ones who know when to pivot with purpose. And it's in moments of uncertainty, disruption, or unexpected opportunity that the ability to shift direction without losing vision becomes one of the most powerful leadership skill sets of all. Come on, let's go ahead and get this conversation started. Welcome back to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast, the podcast where leaders don't just talk about transformation. It's where we lead it, we live it, and we ignite it in others. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're delivering and diving into a leadership skill that defines resilience and innovation and long-term relevance. We're talking about the art of pivoting for meaningful change. I'm super excited for you to meet our special guest today because he's a leader who understands that meaningful change is rarely linear. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Prasad. Dr. Prasad is a distinguished applied physicist, global philanthropist, and USA national best-selling author featured in Success DNA, Mastering Persistence in Leadership and Life. With a PhD in applied physics from Yale University, Dr. Prasad has spent decades at the forefront of scientific innovation, most recently serving as the senior physicist and manager at the prestigious Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Listen, I'm so excited. You know why? Because he has a book, a new book, Impact Shift. He's going to tell us all about it. So at this time, it is my honor to welcome you, Dr. Prasad, to Transformation Station Leadership Podcast. Welcome. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So as we were preparing for this episode, I was thinking to myself about that word pivot. And, when I think about the word pivot, when I think about leadership, to me, pivot over the years tends to be one of the clearest signs of maturity in leadership. And I say that, Dr. Prasad, because pivoting requires self-awareness. It requires emotional discipline. It requires kind of like a willingness from us as leaders to let go of what no longer is serving. So I want to start off by asking you this question. Pivoting, right? It's this buzzword that sounds exciting, but in reality, pivoting often starts with discomfort. So, from
Yes.
your experience, what are some of the signs that it's time for a pivot, even when everything looks like it's fine for the leader on the surface?
Thank you, Adrian. That's an excellent question. And I think it really starts when you start to get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, a disquiet, an
Mm,
idea that things are not happening the way they should. The
mm,
fact that everything is going okay on the surface is all very fine.
mhm,
But below the surface, there's a current. You're no longer excited. You're no
mm,
longer excited about going to work. You're no longer excited about doing what you're doing because it seems like more of the same. It
mm,
comes in very, very subtle ways. For example, you might not want to get out of bed one morning. You might
mhm,
want to take that extra 10-minute nap. This is something you've never done. Don't let that sign go by unnoticed.
mm.
Pick on it. Ask
Mhm.
yourself why. Now,
Why?
there may be a very good reason. It
Mhm,
might be that the night before you stayed up 2 hours past your bedtime. That's a
mhm,
different story. But when you ask yourself why, and
mhm,
the answer comes out, well, there really is no good reason that I can put my
mhm.
finger on, that's the time to start examining. That's the time to start thinking. That's the time to start worrying and strategizing. Am I going to make that shift? What is
Mhm,
it in what I am doing that
mhm,
is acting like it's just business as usual,
mhm.
but it isn't? There's the
Hmm.
rumblings. It's a bit like, when a volcano blows, it never just blows. there's always some steam that comes up before that. If you live by the side of a volcano, you get used to recognizing the signs. You see the steam, you go, okay, time to get moving here, at least time to start packing so that I can get out quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar when it comes to leadership and guiding whatever organization you're guiding, whether it's a profit making organization, whether it's a product oriented organization, service oriented, nonprofit. It doesn't matter. You may only be guiding a small team of people,
Mm-hmm.
but you are at the helm, you are at the rudder. You are the one that's steering the ship. You are the one that's got to pick up on these signs.
Mm-hmm. So here at Transformation Station, we always invite our leaders to pause in the midst of the podcast and just stop and hone in on what's resonating with them. And so to all of our leaders, I invite you right now, like Dr. Prasad is already giving us a masterclass. So I want to invite you right here to go ahead and start to tell us in the chat what's resonating with you. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself that it's so important that as leaders, since we're at the helm, we got to learn to pay attention.
Mhm.
We have to learn to pay attention and not just to the visible things, right? Sometimes there are things visibly you see tends to be loud. That's not really telling you what's happening below the surface, right? But we got
Correct.
to pay attention to the subtle shifts. We got to pay attention to the innovation slowing down. We have to pay attention to the energy dropping in those who we are leading. We have to pay
Mhm.
attention. We find our teams in a season where more maintenance is required in order to get the mission done. So, leaders, we
Exactly.
want to invite you, don't wait. Dr. Prasad is telling us don't wait for a crisis to pivot.
No,
No, no, no. Do those regular checks, stay aware. So then you'll be able to see when it's time. That brings me to
exactly.
this question. This question says, many of us as leaders, we equate change with failure or loss, right? Like I know that there's a leader, as we talk about that word pivot, who's saying, well, I only pivot if something's wrong, right? But Dr. Prasad, how can leaders reframe the pivot as a strategic evolution, a part of the process, rather than a setback?
I think a simple way to look at it is you are going from good to great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is working, but
Mm-hmm.
it is not giving you the next level of growth.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly go ahead and use the micro pivot strategy where you make tiny pivots and then you get little evolution, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and your product, your service, your team evolves a little bit at a time and gets a little better. Or you can take the bold step. And when you take the bold step, it's going to come with a lot of resistance
Mm-hmm.
because people by nature do not like change.
Mm-hmm.
And it is necessary for the leader to frame the, the reason for the change in as positive a
Yes.
manner as possible.
Yes.
You need to get your team on board without making them feel afraid.
Mm,
Most times, most organizations, when change comes, it comes with reorganization, with restructuring, with potential job losses. All
mhm,
of those things create a lot of disquiet. And
mhm,
the very thing that you're trying to do to take your organization from good to great is going to take it from good to not so good.
mhm, mhm,
Because when your team gets unsettled, when your people get unsettled, whatever the organization, whatever it is you do, at the end of the day, your team matters.
yes.
These are the people that are making you successful. No one of us, no matter how good, no matter how powerful, can do everything themselves. In fact, leaders that recognize that and learn to delegate early and learn to not micromanage are the ones that actually get most successful. If you give your team ownership, they're
Yeah.
much more likely to succeed. They're much more likely to go well beyond your expectations of them.
Mm,
If you try to tell them everything you need to do, and you try to micromanage or you try to be very prescriptive, it's not going to work.
not gonna work. No. Can you share an example in your mind of when leaders try to be prescriptive of everything and it doesn't work? Have you seen that?
Oh, I've seen it in myself. I
Mm,
learned early on in my career, a technician of mine, came up to me one day, and I thought I was doing really well because my bosses were telling me I was doing a great job. The numbers were looking good, milestones were being met. And this guy comes up to me and he says, Rahul, I'm going to say something to you. I hope you're going to be open to listening. And I said, okay, go ahead. You know, a bit hesitant here, not sure what's coming. He says, you come into the lab and we know you've got a PhD and we know you're smarter than us. And we know that you can do everything better than us, but you tell us what to do and how to do it.
Mm,
You are not spending your time letting us figure out what we need to do.
mm,
And I said,
cool.
that makes so much sense. And from
Mm,
that point on, I changed the way I led people. I
mm,
made clear to everybody that their ideas were welcome and that
mm,
their thoughts were absolutely valid. And I would tell them why we were doing everything that we were trying to do. Go to
mm.
pains to the point where my team started calling me professor
Yes.
because I
Yeah.
was always teaching them.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that it it caught on fire to the extent that every time I had a job opening in my team,
Mm-hmm.
people from other departments
They
would be the
want to
first to
see.
apply. Say, hey,
Mm,
we've heard that you're a really good guy to work for. And
mm,
so I have always had the best of the best to pick from.
mm-hmm.
And it all came from the fact that I said, you have ownership. This is your product.
Mm,
We are going to make it as a team, as a group. It's not my product. And another little thing, whenever I went for senior management meetings, I would always take one or two or three people from my team and
mm,
give them a chance to shine.
mm, mm.
And it didn't reflect poorly on me. It did not reduce the kudos I
Yes.
got. In fact, it increased it because my managers would say, hey, you need to come and talk to our other managers because
Mm-hmm.
they don't get the fact that you're the guy that has the happiest team. You're the
Mm,
guy that has the most productive team. It's the
mm,
same group of people.
mm-hmm.
We hire from the same pool of people. You're not suddenly going out and hiring people from some other place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm,
why is it that your group consistently outperforms? It's the same thing that happens in coaching. If you
mm.
look at a college basketball team, given
Yes.
that we're in the Final Four, that's a good topic. UConn, from Connecticut,
Yes.
go Huskies. Um, I would say the coach is the one that's responsible.
Mm,
Players come in, they stay there for 4 years, and players
mm-hmm.
leave. And they've got a track record of winning, which is absolutely astounding. That's because
Mm-hmm.
he knows how to get the most out of his players.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same folks, they're not the same talent. They're changing, they're evolving. And that's something that leaders in any organization need to do.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. I'm telling you, I have to go back and watch the replay of this. To all of our leaders right now, literally, as Dr. Prasad is talking, you should feel on the inside like you're being challenged right now. And I want to invite you, if you are in a season that Dr. Prasad just described where he learned a pivotal lesson, right? If you're in that season, where you are telling rather than teaching, you can pivot even today. And
Yes.
this is a great time to stop, reflect, become self aware, and make a conscious choice and decision. As you were talking, I was thinking about this best practice that says
Mhm.
communicate the why behind the shift clearly so teams understand the pivot is about growth and relevance, not retreat. And as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, when people go to a job, the majority of people, when they go to a job, they don't go to a job to be a robot.
Correct.
They go to a job with the expectation that there is going to be something in that culture, that environment, and what they're called to do that will challenge them to
Exactly.
grow somehow. And we rob people of the opportunity to grow, to develop when we just have an authoritative environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It stifles innovation
Mm, mhm,
because innovation doesn't come from the chief innovation officer of your company.
mhm.
Innovation does not come from the top down.
No.
Innovation comes from the bottom up, sideways, and
Mhm,
in every direction.
mhm,
Innovation is the spark of curiosity. When somebody asks, why is it we're doing it this way?
Mm.
What could we do differently? If everybody in your team is empowered to do that, there's not just one person who's asking those questions, there's
Exactly.
10, 20, 30, 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of our human brain is significantly enhanced when
Mm-hmm.
we allow other brains to combine with us.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
other thing which I encourage leaders to do is to encourage collisions, random collisions between people. Provide areas in your workplace where people can naturally gravitate and have discussions. People
Mm.
from different fields, different departments, different areas of your corporation or
Mm.
company, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can challenge each other
Mm-hmm.
and they can also vent their frustrations about whatever it is that's not going well in an
Mm-hmm.
open environment and actually get the other folks who are not steeped in the crisis or in whatever it is that's happening
Mm-hmm.
to ask the question, the
Mm-hmm.
stupid question, which those of us that are practitioners of whatever art we practice, whatever science we practice, technology, we stop asking because it is a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is a person who doesn't have that history with the product, the service, the process that will ask that question, which will make you start thinking, oh, is that really truly the right way to go?
Mm. Whew, you are teaching today. I want you to know that I'm taking it all in as you're talking. I'm like, please keep going. Like I'm learning. I'm considering. It's causing me to pivot on the inside. But let me ask you this question, okay? Every pivot requires letting go of something, whether it's an idea, an identity, or an expectation. So, how do we as leaders navigate the tension between honoring the past and embracing what's next?
Thank you. That's a really good question. And I think you've got to recognize that moving forward, we do have to move forward. There
Mm-hmm.
is, time, unfortunately, is a one-way street. It only
Mm.
goes from today to tomorrow to day after tomorrow. We can't
Yeah,
come from day after tomorrow and come back to today.
yeah.
So I think the way to honor the past is not to continue to do what was done in the past, but
Mm,
to recognize that and to say, all right, so let's look at what created the product or service that was yesterday.
mhm,
What were the tools that went into it? What was the philosophy? What was the design thinking that went into that?
mhm,
Use that to come up with the next product,
mm,
the next service. So you are now continuing the trend.
mhm,
You're not staying mired in the past, but you're honoring the past because you're using the same philosophy. The
mm.
philosophy doesn't have to change.
Correct.
The
Yeah.
process of design thinking doesn't have to change. What
Mhm,
has to change is the end result.
mhm,
Because today's product is fulfilling today's need. Most
mhm,
successful products are successful because they fill a need. They
mhm,
reduce certain friction in the lives of whoever it is that uses them, whether it's a commercial product or a business product. Either
mhm,
which way, it's always something that makes something easier,
mhm,
something less difficult.
mhm,
As we evolve as a culture, as a society, as the world, our products also change.
mhm,
And what was working yesterday is not going to work today. If you're
mhm,
building calculators and you don't think about making a computer, you're actually going to wind up obsolete at some point in time. But
mhm.
you can use the same philosophy that you did to develop the calculator, to develop the computer, to develop the supercomputer, whatever direction you're headed in, without dishonoring the past.
Let me ask you this question. I think this ties in with it, and I know that this is an area that many leaders struggle with, especially when we're talking about change, right? Honoring the past and, appreciating what is and moving forward. So, in the process of all this, what can help leaders to stay grounded and to stay confident when others don't see our vision? I know that that's a tension that many leaders, like, we understand there's a need to change, to pivot, but the others around us don't see it. What can help us as leaders to stay grounded and confident when others don't see the vision?
I think believing in yourself is where it all starts.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about your path from childhood to where
Mm-hmm.
you are, it is filled with first steps that you take, which you
Mm-hmm.
have to take, where you have to push beyond the boundary. And
Mm-hmm.
every time you do that, you're doing it with the knowledge that you actually know what you're doing and it's going to work out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that is what you have to continue. It's that self confidence. It's the same thing that makes you choose to apply for your first job. You've never had a job before. You finished whatever schooling you're going to finish and you're applying for a job. What what do you have to do? What do you have to think? You have to have the confidence that you are right for the job. That's why you apply for it. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you'd never apply for a job. If you
Mm-hmm.
waited to find the job that actually fit your skill set exactly, you might never get a job,
Never get a job.
right? So what do you have to do? You have to say, okay, I believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I have done everything that needs to be done to determine that this is the right path. And that includes consulting with other people, including your team.
Mm-hmm.
If don't take it all upon yourself, because that's the surest way to start feeling like Atlas with the weight of the world on his shoulders. It's easier, much easier to share the burden with your
Mm-hmm.
team. And then the other aspect of that is your team will have pride of ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So they will help you navigate this difficult time. They
Mm-hmm.
will be your people. They will be the people that will help you.
Mm-hmm. I found through the years that when there is this sense of shared responsibility, shared wins, shared challenges, that the team, you're right, the team finds a way to come
Mhm.
together, to walk the journey together. It may not necessarily be
Exactly.
smooth, but there's a togetherness, like we're gonna figure it out together. But
Yes.
that doesn't just start when there's a crisis, it
No,
starts all, I mean, it happens continuously, right?
it
There's a
is. It is
continuum.
absolutely true. And I think it's necessary even when things are going as well as it possibly can.
Mhm,
That's the time to build that togetherness because with all the wins, you've got a lot of kudos that you can share. And you should be
mhm,
sharing it freely.
mhm, mhm.
Don't
Absolutely.
feel that everybody should be thinking, oh, you're the guy that's making everything work.
No, no.
Because that's just not physically possible.
No, no. And honestly, I mean, when you are leading, there should not be a need to tell people that you're the leader. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
If you have to
Absolutely
tell
correct.
people I'm the leader, that's a red flag right there.
Right there.
A red
Right
flag.
there. If they're not figuring it out by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not doing something right. In
Yeah,
fact,
it
you're not
is.
doing a lot right.
And leaders listening and watching, I want to invite you, go ahead and please tell. I know that this is resonating with you, so tell us in the chat. And matter of fact, make sure that you don't keep this conversation to yourself. You need to share this with other leaders in your network. You can even make this a part of your staff meeting. Start off, let them watch this podcast, and then
Yes.
have a discussion around how do we best pivot as a team. All right, I got to get these next two questions in. I don't want this thing to end, but listen, here's the question. We know that the best pivots often come with resistance, internal and external. So, how can leaders ensure that the pivots are values driven, not reaction driven?
That is a very, very good thing to do. And I think if you're looking at values driven pivoting, you're doing the pivot well before it is necessary.
Mm,
That's the
mhm,
key. It's the timing.
mm,
When you wait until sales start to drop to come out with the next iteration of your product, it is
mm.
too late. You
It's
are
too
being
late.
reactive.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
time to pivot is when everybody else thinks, oh my gosh, these guys are the market leader. What are they doing?
Hmm.
Why are they moving forward? Why are they changing? What is
Hmm.
wrong with them? Masterclass in this has been done over and over again by a little company called Apple.
Mm.
If you watch the way in which their products are oriented, every time their product reaches a peak, That's
Mhm.
about the time they'll launch something completely different. And
Mm.
within a year or two, they'll even yank the one that was succeeding until yesterday
Mm.
completely out. Take the
Mm.
iPod. Just about the time it reached its peak, they had the
Mm.
iPhone. And then a few years later, the iPod doesn't exist anymore.
Mm.
You got to go to a secondhand store to get one.
Get it? Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the difference between visionary and reactionary.
Mm.
You have to do it well ahead of the curve. You've got to be thinking, as Wayne Gretzky used to say, I don't skate to where the puck is. Skate to where the puck will be.
Snaps. Yes, doctor. Woo! I'm learning a lot today. Yes, no, wise words, wise words, wise words. So as we turn the corner on this conversation, for the listeners, for the leaders right now who are listening and watching, and they're literally at a crossroads in their leadership, knowing that there's something that needs to shift, but unsure where to start. What's one simple step that these leaders can take today to begin their own intentional pivot?
I think the first thing to do is to use the scientific method to look at this problem. It's not a problem, it's a challenge, it's an opportunity. But look at what created the situation that exists today. How did you get here? Look
Mm,
dispassionately at all the steps.
mm,
And that will be a really good starting point because once you know what led to where you are, you
mhm,
can make changes in
mhm,
how you continue to proceed. Because
mhm,
if you don't do this introspection, this
mhm,
looking at yourself and making sure that things are going the way you want them to,
mhm,
you're never going to be able to step back and make the change. The
mm.
other last thing I would say is don't let your ego get in the way.
Ooh, say that again. Mm,
That's really difficult for most people to do.
mhm,
We are always, always hesitant to admit that
mhm,
we are the ones that did something that led
mhm,
to a situation that isn't
mhm,
the best for everyone.
mm,
And acknowledging that, not letting your ego get in the way. If the process was developed, if the product was developed, you were instrumental in it, but you recognize that it's not working,
mhm,
don't, and John has or Jane has a product that is much better. Don't just say, well, I've got to keep with mine because damn it, I'm the leader.
mm,
You want to be willing to give that up, look at everything, and make that change.
mhm,
And then it becomes easier to do. If you get your ego wrapped around it,
mhm.
it's going to be very difficult.
Woo. Listen, Dr. Prasad, we got to have you back again because we barely
Absolutely.
scratched the surface on this masterclass right here. Barely. I know that there are leaders that are listening and watching right now that they want more. So, how can our viewers and listeners, how can they engage with you? What resources do you have available so that we can continue to learn?
So one of them, of course, is LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can contact me directly on LinkedIn, connect with me, and I'd be happy to share what I know. I
Mhm.
have a TikTok channel and I have an Instagram channel where I'm constantly posting on topics that would be of interest to people. And they are Rahul Prasad Creates, both of the handles. I have a website, rahulrprasad.com, where I have a blog and something that we haven't scratched at all, which is I am a photo nut. I take photos like they're going out of style, and I think I'm fairly good at it. Not to get my ego wrapped around it.
It's all
And
right.
lastly, but not leastly, I've just written a book, Impact Shift: The Art of Pivoting for Meaningful Change. That might be a very interesting read. And you can get that at Amazon and any other retail outlet.
Fantastic. All right. So, viewers and listeners, all of Dr. Prasad's links that we are aware of are in the description box. We want to invite you. You know, we like to support our guests. So please go ahead, click on the links, engage with him. And as a matter of fact, let Dr. Prasad know that you heard this particular episode. Let him know what resonated with you. buy the book and engage, because as a community, we know the community that learns together grows together. Dr. Prasad, it's been wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you so much for sowing into our community and adding such rich value.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adrian, for having me. It has been a pleasure. It has been a wonderful discussion. And I encourage your listeners, your people who are watching, to engage with me. I would be more than happy. This is what
Absolutely.
I live for.
Yeah, Transformation Station, we're going to have him back. I'm just saying that in advance. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Prasad.
you.
All right. Well, listen, Transformation Station community. One of the things that I learned today is that transformation often begins the moment that we as leaders stop resisting change and start leading with awareness. I want to invite you to write down one current commitment, one strategy or belief that no longer serves your growth. Then define one small action to test a new direction that you can take today. We know that intentional pivots begin with honest awareness and one courageous next step. So, what's that next courageous step that you're going to take? Tell us in the comments, and I promise you, send a DM. I will share it on a future episode, because Dr. Prasad reminded us today that pivoting is not a sign of instability, it's a sign of wisdom, of courage, and of growth. Be sure to join us every Monday and Wednesday for more leadership gems on Transformation Station. And until next time, keep leading with clarity, keep adapting with purpose, and keep on moving towards the meaningful change that your leadership was designed to create.